Now, Germany is Russia's biggest export market in Europe for gas. Back in 2018, Donald Trump publicly criticised Germany for Nord Stream, the pipeline deal with Moscow. He even called Berlin a captive to Russia. In a speech at the UN General Assembly, no less, Mr. Trump said Germany would become totally dependent on Russian energy. And what did the German delegation do? Well, have a look.
Reliance on a single foreign supplier can leave a nation vulnerable to extortion and intimidation. That is why we congratulate European states such as Poland for leading the construction of a Baltic pipeline so that nations are not dependent on Russia to meet their energy needs. Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers.
I went and checked the tape. That was in real time the reaction of the German diplomatic delegation at the UN. They were incapable, as diplomats ought to be, of hiding their feelings, and I would say quite derisory feelings, towards the leader of the free world, as was Donald Trump. Well, a former Trump advisor, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, listening to that, and I'm sure perhaps remembers the occasion, Seb Gorka. Well, they're not laughing anymore.
Well, it's strange. We were accused of being the warmongers in the Trump administration. And as President Trump noted in the speech he gave at a conservative event just when the war in Ukraine had started, he's the only president this century on whose watch Russia did not invade its neighbors. Under George W. Bush, it was Georgia. Under Obama, it was Crimea. And now under Biden, it's the rest of Ukraine. So this is stunning. He warned NATO, stop using Russian oil and gas. He said, if you are the allies of the United States, be serious. Spend 2% of your GDP on defense. They refuse to do so except a small minority. And now, just last week, Colin, Germany says, yes, we might consider reopening our nuclear power plants and actually stumping up our membership fee to NATO. It's sad. I mean, it's tragic, really, that Russia has to invade its neighbor for Europeans to understand that President Trump was right.
Almost reads like a parable. I mean, $100 million the Germans have now committed to rearmament, a scale of spending hitherto unimaginable, and certainly unimaginable to Donald Trump. I mean, he couldn't get them to spend a fraction of that before.
When the first visit of Chancellor Merkel, and others have said this already, so I'm not speaking out of school, when she came to Washington for her first visit with President Trump, we were berated, we were lectured by her and her national security advisor. She said, we are a serious nation. We take our commitment to the common defense of NATO seriously. We spend X amount on our defense. We pointed out to her, Colin, we said, our president has just signed a bill to increase our defense budget by an increment that is larger than the German defense budget in toto. You are not serious. Our increase is bigger than your annual budget. Now, finally, they take it seriously. But look, they chose this direction when Gerhard Schröder left the chancellery. As the head of the German state, he became the head of Gazprom in Russia. They have been using 30% of their energy influx. Their imports are coming from Moscow. So it's shocking that Ukrainians hiding in, the underground, refugee streams into Europe are the moment when Germany and others say, yeah, perhaps we should be serious about our defense. It took a war for them to realize that our president, the prior president, was right.
And if he makes another bid, a future bid, Donald Trump, to be president, I mean, he's entitled to cite this, isn't he? He's entitled to look at his critics in the eye who say he was a naif, ingenue, hopeless at foreign affairs, wasn't interested, didn't get it, the madmen theory. Actually, he can turn around and say, I predicted exactly what would happen. My advice was that I followed was right. If only people had followed it, they wouldn't be in the situation they find themselves in now.
Well, look, Calvin's off Twitter, but here in the US, President Trump supporters have a meme, have a saying, have a hashtag that is coming back every single day. President Trump was right about everything. Now, that's just a tweet you'll see again and again and again, whether it's illegal immigration, southern border, whether it's inflation, whether it's Russia, whether it's ISIS. Pick a topic, and he was proven to be right. He may be an ingenue, but that's what we needed. We didn't want another swamp creature politician. We wanted somebody who wasn't tied to the vested interest in Washington, D.C. Somebody who could say, no, I'm not in the pockets of the unions, Big Pharma, the oil industry, the defense industrial complex. I'm here to represent America. And that's what he did. And that's why they had to take him out with the quote unquote clean election we had last year. So if anybody believes 81 million Americans voted for a senile old man, I've got a bridge to sell them in Connecticut. So yes, he is running, Colin. He'll be back. And he can very boldly say, I told you so. And we need him back in the White House.
Well, it's a point of view and expressed with great finesse. Seb Gorka, thanks very much indeed. Olivia Utley is alongside me. Some people will listen to Seb Gorka and say, come on, the world without Donald Trump when it comes to foreign affairs is a safer place.
And in some ways, I would agree with them. But, I mean, it can't be denied that, as he said, under every other president in the last century, Russia invaded its neighbours, and under President Trump, it didn't. Perhaps his madness was quite good for foreign affairs. The fact that no one knew quite what he would do, that at any minute he might see something on Twitter and decide to press the nuclear button, did scare off his enemies. It's a sort of odd way to keep the world safe, but it did kind of work. I think the other point is that I don't understand how no other country saw this coming in the way that President Trump did. You see the German delegation laughing there. What were they expecting to happen? They knew what Putin was doing. They saw it in front of their eyes, but they just weren't willing to accept it because there was this sort of liberal consensus that President Putin was a kind of rational actor. And President Trump saw through that, probably because he was a bit of an outsider. So there is merit to what Seb Gorka has to say, though, although I definitely don't agree with every word of it.
I like the way he says it, though. Swamp creature politician. There's a phrase I want to use more in conversation. Olivia, we'll come back to you in a sec.